Hello, my name is David Kennan and I am one of the co-founders of Timberchain. Illegal logging is a huge problem, not just environmentally, but socially and economically as well. As they say, the forests are the lungs of the planet. They play host to many fragile ecosystems that are being threatened. Indigenous communities are displaced and significant tax revenues are lost due to illegal logging. Interpol estimates that as much as $15 billion of timber is harvested illegally every year. As a result, illegal logging is changing the way timber companies work. Not just importers and exporters, but timber traders within domestic markets too. FSC, SFI, and other timber certification programs are updating their standards to align with new, tough legislation on timber imports. Timber companies now have to prove that they know exactly where their timber has come from. The Lacey Act, the European Timber Regulation, the Australian Illegal Logging Prohibition Bill, are forcing timber importers to ensure the timber they are placing in these markets come from a legal origin. The consequences if they don't are loss of certification, fines, confiscation of product, or in extreme circumstances, a prison sentence. Gibson Guitars were fined $600,000 for importing illegal ebony and rosewood. In 2016, lumber liquidators were fined $13 million relating to the importation of illegally logged hardwood flooring from Russia. So what do timber companies have to do differently? The guidance is consistent between import legislation and certification standards. Timber companies must set up a due diligence system to assess the level of risk associated with the products they are trading. So what is a due diligence system? Well, it's split into three areas. The first stage is for timber companies to gather as much information as possible about the origin of the products they are selling. Once they have collected as much information as possible, they then need to assess the risk that the timber is illegal, if it has violated traditional or human rights, to what extent have the management activities to source the timber threatened conservation values, whether or not the timber has come from land that has recently been changed from native forest to plantation, and the chances the timber is from a genetically modified timber species. Once the risks have been decided, the company will work out if they wish to continue trading the timber. If they wish to continue, they must demonstrate what they have done to mitigate any of the risks identified. We focus on the gathering data part of the due diligence system. Timberchain is all about collecting as much information about the product as it travels through the supply chain as possible. Gathering data about where your timber has originated is not as easy as it sounds. In fact, to steal a soundbite from IBM, there is more documentation required to track a consignment of timber than there is to track a melon through the supply chain, grown and produced for human consumption. So what are people doing about it? The largest companies have invested in due diligence teams or hired external consultants to scour the internet for information to understand more about the origin of the timber and associated risks. ERP systems and Excel spreadsheets show where the products have come from. However, these systems only show a one-up and one-down view of where the products have been sourced. Most companies are using cloud storage tools such as Dropbox to store supply chain documents. These systems are blunt tools. None of the documents are connected, and it's up to the reader to work out the connection between each document and understand the journey the timber has taken. The reality is that there are no commercial systems available to help timber companies effectively communicate where their products have come from. Who wants to know? Well, the consumers want to know where their timber has come from. The retailers need to know. The sawmills have to know, and the importers and exporters have a legal obligation. So how can Timberchain help these companies? Timberchain is an online chain of custody tool that collects supply chain data and presents it in an easy-to-understand format, helping to promote legality and reduce the risk of timber coming from somewhere that does not comply with import laws and certification standards. The simple answer to the difficult question is that companies simply want a concise document for every product detailing exactly where the timber has originated. Timberchain calls this document a digital passport. The digital passport can be used to show consumers where their kitchen table has come from, or provide customs agents with an easy-to-analyse document help timber companies prove to their customers that they have full control of their supply chains, and prove to auditors that the origins of the timber are known and documented. Let's take the example of a bag of premium hardwood pellets bought from a Home Depot store in Norwich in the state of New York. Today, looking at the website, there is a product specification, however there is nothing suggesting the origin of the wood. Ideally, there would be a link to view the product's digital passport, illustrating where the timber used in the product has originated. By clicking the link, the consumer could see the digital passport describing where the product has come from. The digital passport summarises the product being traced and the distance it has travelled. In this example, a total of 3,077 kilometres. In the future, there will be the option of calculating the product's carbon footprint from stump to the store. A map displays the supply chain and all of the information regarding the product's journey, such as the origin of the timber, each site the timber has travelled through, each movement the timber has made up until the Home Depot store. The digital passport provides the story of where the product has come from in an easy to read and understandable format. Timberchain is the front-end application to a blockchain-enabled traceability platform that has been developed by timber experts with over 25 years' experience in the industry. Using IBM's Hyperledger Cloud, we're building a timber blockchain that will validate transactions against authorized volumes of harvested timber species. Each transaction is supported by harvest documents, volumes of species, and transport movements. Once the transaction is verified, it creates a permanent and unalterable block, providing confidence to consumers and customs agents that the volume of timber has originated from a legal and verified origin. If you would like to see how the software works, please see our Timberchain demo video. Many thanks.